Hey everybody, I'm back in the saddle. I'm back to review a few more Paul McCartney solo albums. If you remember the last time we were together, we went through the McCartney album, the Ram album, and then the Wildlife album. So now we're going to go over the next three, which was, or is, or are, Red Rose Speedway, Band on the Run, and Venus and Mars. Now, what I'm finding is some of these little sessions are going pretty long, and I don't know if that's such a good thing. So what I've decided to do and not to do is I'm not going to go over every song on these albums. I'm just going to go over the ones that I think are exceptional and just kind of skim over. And this way, you won't have to sit, for an hour and hear me ramble on. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to bring you our sponsor for this segment, and that is Nokia by Singular Cellular. And Nokia, cell at your fingertips. Hello, who is this? Oh, it's for you. It's singular. Okay, so that's that. So we had Wildlife released, and that was with the brand new a band McCartney came out with or formed, and that was Wings. So he did Wildlife, which didn't do overly well. It wasn't really well publicized, I don't think, but nonetheless, it sold because it was a McCartney album. But anyway, it was, like I said, there were some pretty weak spots in it, and wasn't, in my opinion, a real strong album, save for a couple songs. So, in around 1972, I'm going to say March, McCartney had another guitarist added to the Wings group, and that was Henry McCulloch, and he was formerly of Joe Cocker's Grease Band. So the first song that he was premiered on, or first song that he was in with the band, was the single Give Ireland Back to the Irish. Now, this was released, and it was really kind of a protest song, kind of McCartney's first. And this was right after what was called Bloody Sunday up in Great Britain and Ireland, because there was a war going on between the Irish and the British over some land, I believe. And I was 15 years old at the time, so I really didn't pay a lot of attention to it, other than McCartney wrote a song about it. So Give Ireland Back to the Irish was a good rocker, and it was an excellent song, but it was promptly banned by the BBC because of its kind of criticism of the British government. So you had Give Ireland Back to the Irish. It was banned. It wasn't a huge hit. So McCartney, quite snarkily, said, okay, well then I'm going to put out a single that surely won't get banned. And he put out Mary Had a Little Lamb. He said, I did that not only so to show that I can write something that wouldn't get banned, but it's also has my daughter's name, Mary, in it. So this was kind of a namby-pamby song. I still liked it. I like everything he does. But it was kind of wimpy, and it was criticized. The B-side to this was called Little Woman Love, which was a nice kind of 50s kind of piano rocker, and that really should have been the A-side, and I think it did get some airplay, but nonetheless, you know, he Give Ireland Back to the Irish with Mary Had a Little Lamb. Then in early 1973, or maybe late 1972, late 1972, and I'm thinking, November, December-ish, he released his next single, which was an all-out rocker called Hi, Hi, Hi. Great, great song. Banned by the BBC because it had some lyrics that they felt was inappropriate. McCartney said it was, I want you to lie on the bed and get you ready for my polygon. But everybody knows it was, I want you to lie on the bed and get you ready for my body gun. So there. And not to mention the song was called Hi, Hi, Hi. And the main lyric was, we're going to get high, high, high. So I got something stuck in my throat, so I apologize. But anyway, this was backed with the song Sea Moon, which was a really good song. It was a reggae tune. And he performs, he does Hi, Hi, Hi once in a while, but he performs Sea Moon in concert a lot of times. But that was a really good song, and some of the members of the band kind of switched places. I think Henry McCulloch, as opposed to playing guitar, he played drums, and Denny Sywell played the xylophone on it. So you had Hi, 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 banned by the BBC, but it got some good airplay in the United States. Not tons, but good. Modest hit. Good song. So then we're into 1973, and in and around, I'm going to say March, the new Paul McCartney single is released, and it's called My Love. And this is a great, typical, classic McCartney ballad. And let me tell you, it was a hit. Very much in the vein of Long and Winding Road, in respect to the fact that it had strings and an orchestra, and just a really nice song. And it was a huge hit. And I think for 1973, it might have been the biggest hit, other than, I think it came second to Tie a Yellow Ribbon by Tony Orlando. So I wish I can get this out of my voice or my throat. So anyway, huge hit, and McCartney was back. Now he had a hit. People were recognizing Wings. He had toured England, going to college campuses and just showing up, saying, "Hey, do you mind if we play in your auditorium?" And Paul McCartney's here. He wants to play for us. He did that during the 1972 time, and then and then I think 1973 kind of stopped that, recorded the new album, which is titled Red Rose Speedway. That included the song My Love. The album is a great album. It put McCartney back on the footing that he was known for and was expected. Not only did he do My Love, but it opened with Big Barn Bed, which is a great song. Nice guitar song. He premiered that song on the ABC special James Paul McCartney that I believe was released about 6 or 7 months earlier, maybe 5 months earlier. But nonetheless, Big Barn Bed was a great song. Then you have My Love. The next song was Get on the Right Thing, which is a building kind of rocker with a classic McCartney scream on it. A ballad, Only One More Kiss, which was a good guitar ballad. And then what they call the center point of the record, and it was called Little Lamb Dragonfly. And it's kind of a corny title and corny lyrics, but it's a beautiful, well done song. And I think a lot of people really appreciated it. Single Pigeon, piano ballad, was okay. When the Night is another great song. It featured Denny Lane playing the Spanish guitar on it. Is a great song. Kind of the low point is Loop, First Indian on the Moon, which is a instrumental. Meh. It's not that great, and there's a ton of other songs he could have put in place of that, because originally Red Rose Speedway was supposed to be a double album. Unfortunately, EMI, his record company in England, said, no, you know what? Come back with a single album. So he did. A few years back, he released Red Rose Speedway as a remastered anniversary box set, and with it included the original Red Rose Speedway double album. And I think it makes for a stronger single album. But I mean, I would have been happy. But it's weird because the double album included several live songs, and to me that I don't know if that's really, to throw live songs in a studio album release. I don't know. But after Loop, First Indian on the Moon, came the ending medley. And a lot of when they reviewed the song, they said the album ends with an Abbey Road, typical McCartney Abbey Road type medley. And the only similarity, I think, is that it's a medley, like Abbey Road's. But it wasn't even similar to the Abbey Road medley. But it was Hold Me Tight, Lazy Dynamite, Hands of Love, and Power Cut. And each song is very different, and it just blended each song together. And what was really cool at the end of this medley was that kind of at the end, each song reprised instrumentally. So it had the first song, Hold Me Tight, instrumental, and then Lazy Dynamite, instrumental, Hands of Love, instrumental, and Power Cut, instrumental. Just kind of fading out, kind of a grand finale. It worked really well. And as far as I'm concerned, Red Rose Speedway was definitely the return of McCartney. And though I thought the album Ram was too, but let's put it this way: Red Rose Speedway put Wings on the map, showed that he's got a top-notch band, and that could really work. So, so you had that, and so that was a nice hit, and it did really well on the charts. And this is April, I think, of 1973. So now we're going into the summer of 1973, and McCartney was commissioned to do the song for the newest James Bond movie. And James Bond movies always had a theme song by some hot performer, and this time it was Paul McCartney. And it was the very first James Bond movie with Roger Moore as James Bond, and it really worked. And in my opinion, it helped sell the movie. Definitely helped sell the song, but it helped sell the movie too, because I immediately went and saw the movie, even though I hadn't seen a James Bond movie in probably 10 years prior. But and that was Live and Let Die. And he did premiere this song on his television special several months earlier. But Live and Let Die was a big hit. Everyone knows, I don't have to tell you much about it. It reunited McCartney with Beatles producer George Martin. And this is the center point of his live concerts also, with the pyrotechnics and all. But great song. We all love Live and Let Die. So this is the summer of 1973, and McCartney now is feeling pretty good about Wings. So he decides, you know what, I want to record an album somewhere exotic. So he contacted EMI, his label, and said, what recording studios do you have around the world that we can record in? So they gave him a list, and he decided, well, hey, Lagos, Nigeria sounds good. So that's where they went. And upon leaving for Lagos, Nigeria, Denny Seiwell and Henry McCulloch both decided, we don't want to go. We're leaving the band. Henry McCulloch, I think, butted heads with Linda a little bit, and I think that was his big deal, maybe. I don't know. Denny Seiwell, there was no bitterness. He's just like, my wife doesn't want to go, doesn't want to be on the road, doesn't want to do this. And so that was that. So Denny Lane went first, because now they're just a trio, Paul, Linda, and Denny. Denny Lane went first with their engineer and former Beatles engineer, Jeff Emmerich. And when they got to Nigeria, the studio was just a mess. It was during monsoon season. There was wires everywhere. It wasn't even completed. So they had to do a lot of work to get it going and proper. And so this was really an album that was made under duress, and it worked. They said McCartney works best under pressure, and he really proved it here. So they got there. The studio was a mess. I think Ginger Baker, formerly of Cream, worked to help McCartney get everything together. So they started recording and doing some jamming and doing some songs. And one night, McCartney and Linda decided, well, we're not going to take a car to our hotel. It's a nice night out. We'll just walk. And so that's what they did. And with that, a car pulls up. 4 dudes, Nigerians, jump out of the car, hold a knife to McCartney's neck, and basically said, give us everything you've got. And Linda's freaking out, going, "He's Beatle Paul. Don't kill him. He's Beatle Paul." And they didn't care. I don't think they knew who he was. They just took everything, including the tapes that they had just recorded in the studio. Now, they probably didn't know who McCartney was, because the tapes never ever showed up, the songs, on any bootleg or anything like that. So they probably just either re-recorded over them or threw them away. It just sounded like trash to them. So that was that. Then one night, maybe under all the stress of what happened previously, McCartney collapsed with a collapsed lung. And I guess it was because of the humidity, and also they said he was smoking too much. And I don't know if it was cigarettes or weed or whatever, but he got pretty sick. And then the locals bursted into the studio, very angry, claiming that McCartney and Linda and Denny were stealing their music. And that's why they were there, was to steal their music, which McCartney said, "No, we're not here to steal anybody's music, and I can prove it to you." And they played the music, and they realized that they weren't trying to steal anything, but just wanting to be inspired. And I think they even contributed a little bit on that album. So, when McCartney came back to the studio the next day after being mugged, he mentioned what happened. And the locals, the people that were working in the studios that were locals, said, "You're lucky you were white. First of all, it was really stupid for you to go walking, because you don't do that here. And second, you're very lucky that you were white, because if you were black, they would have killed you. And the reason why you're lucky you were white and they didn't kill you is to white people, all blacks look the same. And you wouldn't be able to identify this." So, nonetheless, Band on the Run was completed. A few songs were recorded. I think Jet, I don't remember. Jet was recorded in England. And also Helen Wheels, I think, was recorded with the original Wings Band with Denny Seiwell and Henry McCulloch. And Helen Wheels was the first single to be released in November 1973. Helen Wheels was on the American Band on the Run, but it was not on the British Band on the Run. I don't know why. I don't think McCartney really intended it to be on Band on the Run. And the United States, does things different. But nonetheless, so it opens with Band on the Run, the album. And here we are. And this was released the first week of December, by the way. But it opens with the song Band on the Run. And everybody's heard that. And everybody knows that's an incredible song. Band on the Run. Then Jet. Then Bluebird, which was also premiered on the James Paul McCartney television special, now like a year prior. When I first saw Bluebird, I thought, you know what, he's trying to cash in on some past triumphs with Blackbird and now Bluebird, but they couldn't be any different, and Bluebird stands on its own. Rocker Mrs. Vanderbilt, who doesn't like that? Then you had Let Me Roll It, which is, a lot of people thought it was an homage to John Lennon, because it had the echoey Lennon kind of sound, cold turkey kind of guitar. But it is a fan favorite at his concerts, and it's a great song. My least favorite song on the album is Mamunia, and that's kind of a jungle flavored song. It's not a bad song. It's just my least favorite. No Words is a great song. It reminds me of a Lennon McCartney singing together, though it's McCartney and Denny Lane. Very Beatlish to me. And my complaint about that song is that right at the guitar, it's a very short song, and right at the guitar solo, that it fades to the end. And if you could have just done the guitar solo and then continued with another verse, it would have been so much better. So anyway, but nonetheless, No Words is a wonderful song. And then you had Hell on Wheels, which is a rocker. And fun fact, he's never, ever, ever done that live. Then there's a song called Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me. And that song was written by a challenge by Dustin Hoffman, the actor. And McCartney was, I don't remember, I think it was in France or somewhere where they were filming the movie Papillon with Steve McQueen, and McCartney happened to be there, and he was at dinner with Dustin Hoffman and his wife. And Dustin Hoffman challenged him and said, you write a song about anything. McCartney said, well, tell me what to write a song about and I'll do it. He goes, okay, Picasso. Write a song about Picasso's last words. So McCartney did. Next day, here's my song. And he played it for him. The album ends with a Piano Rocker 1985. Great song, which he now plays live also. This album came out in December of 1973, and so 1985 seemed, especially to a 16-year-old, or 17-year-old, very long ways away. But nonetheless, awesome song, awesome album. You know, the thing about Band on the Run, it had legs. Hell on Wheels was a huge hit. And it lasted, it came out the end of around Thanksgiving of 1973. And that kept going until after the new year. And then probably around February or March, he released Jet, which was another huge hit. And that lasted till summer. And then during June or July, they put up Band on the Run as a single, which was another huge hit. And this album hit number one when it was released, but kept dropping down and then going back up, dropping down. Every time he'd release a single, it would hit number one again. So, I mean, it was on the top of the charts for a very, very long time. So now McCartney has a trio, and he needs to get a couple more people in his band. So he gets a guitarist named Jimmy McCulloch, who used to be in the band Thunderclap Newman, and played the Thunderclap Newman had to hit Something in the Air. And he was a child prodigy, and he was only like 21, I think, or 22 when he joined Wings. But nonetheless, he was an excellent guitarist. And then they got also for a drummer, Jeff Britton, who, a good drummer. He was also a black belt in karate. So McCartney said, hey, I got this new band. Let's go to Nashville and get some of that Nashville flavor. And they all packed up and went to Nashville. With that, he thought, well, what I'd also like to do is maybe do another television special. And so they they filmed the sessions, and that's what it was going to be. Nothing like the James Paul McCartney special, but this was all going to be kind of just him performing and doing studio stuff and whatnot. It never aired, but it was released as a movie in theaters about a year ago or a couple of years ago, and then they released the soundtrack at the same time. So that was released. You can buy that, but the one hand clapping is pretty interesting. It's more of a documentary, but it never did make it to television. So they recorded in Nashville a little bit. The pressure was on McCartney because you've got to do a follow-up to Band on the Run, and what are you going to do? And he wrote a song about the place that he was staying while in Nashville, and that was at Junior's Farm. So he wrote this song, Junior's Farm, and generally that's the second song now he plays when he performs live. But great rocker. Fantastic rocker, and he introduces Jimmy McCulloch for the first time when he goes, "Take me down, Jimmy," and Jimmy McCulloch goes into an awesome guitar solo. Now, this was also backed by a country song called Sally G. And this song had some, not only the Wings, but some locals in Nashville on the song, and it actually made it on the country charts. Not real high, but it did make the charts and Billboard Country. So that was pretty awesome for him. It was kind of a double A side. While he was there, he hooked up with country guitar great Chet Atkins, and they got to talking, and McCartney told him, "Yeah, my dad wrote a song a long time ago that he never got to see to fruition, and they were chatting, and he said, call your dad up, get the song, and let's record it." And okay. So he called his dad up. Dad gave him all the information about the song and the tune and all that, and they recorded it. Not as Wings, but as the Country Hams, and it's called Walking in the Park with Eloise. And it was an instrumental, and you could tell it was written in the 40s, kind of a 1940s tune, but sounding tune, lots of a little horn and but it was a very sweet song, and it was backed by a song McCartney wrote, another instrumental called Bridge Over River Sweet, which was kind of a bluesy, jazzy kind of song, but it was good nonetheless. Nice, tribute for his dad. So McCartney decides, I've had enough of Nashville, this Nashville business. The Mardi Gras is going on, and this is March now of 1974. Let's head out to New Orleans. So they pack up their bags and go to New Orleans. Except the drummer, Jeff Britton, says, I'm not going. Him and Jimmy McCulloch didn't get along. They clashed, and he just said, you know what? I don't want to be in a band. I don't want to be in this band. So Jeff Britton left, and when they got to New Orleans, they found a drummer. He's the southern dude, was in a band, and I can't remember the name of the band, but it's kind of an Allman Brothers kind of sounding band. Anyway, his name was Joe English. Jeff Britton, Joe English. It was kind of weird. But who is an incredible drummer. Good old Joe English. And so he joined Wings in New Orleans. Now, at this time, McCartney and Lennon were really getting along. And McCartney said, hey, John, why don't you come join me in New Orleans? And Lennon said, hey, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. So he had planned to go to New Orleans. But at the time, he just got back together with Yoko. And he never showed up. He just didn't go. And I know McCartney was disappointed because they were going to do some stuff together. And I think it would have been pretty sweet. But no, it just didn't happen. Which was unfortunate. But they did some good recording there in New Orleans. They totally absorbed the Mardi Gras. And I read in either Circus Magazine or Rolling Stone that McCartney was recording in New Orleans, and his first single is called My Carnival, which was totally incorrect. He did record a song, and that might have been the first song, called My Carnival, but it wasn't released for another 10 years as a B-side to Spies Like Us. So it didn't make it onto the Venus and Mars album, which was his new album recorded in New Orleans. The first single from Venus and Mars was Listen to What the Man Said. And it was a huge hit. Very listenable. Everybody liked it. Everyone was on McCartney's side now. After Red Rose Speedway and Band on the Run and Junior's Farm, and everybody was loving McCartney. And so he does Listen to What the Man Said, and that came out probably May, because the first week of June in 1975, the Venus and Mars album came out. Now, this album was definitely created to play live, and that was his intent. And the song opens with the song Venus and Mars. And, this is 1975, so it's still kind of hippie kind of thing. And it sitting in the stand of the sports arena, waiting for the show to begin, and, it's kind of dreamy, thinking about the rock show he's going to be in. And then suddenly it blasts into the song Rock Show. And Rock Show is a all-out rocker, and and it's really from the view of this rock fan. What's that man holding in his hand? And looks a lot like the one used by Jimmy Page. They were louder at the Rainbow. There's a rock show at the Hollywood Bowl. Just a fan's view. Come on, get your dress on, put your wig on straight. You can't be late. We're going to a rock show. Just all the excitement of going to a rock show. So that was a great song. And then it slows down to Love in Song, which is a nice kind of power ballad. And then he goes to what I always say, kind of his Beatle roots, because it's kind of a When I'm 64, Your Mother Should Know vein of You Gave Me the Answer, 1920s, 30s, 40s kind of song, which at every concert when he performed in 1976, when he performed that song, he dedicated it to Fred Astaire. McCartney was always a comic book fan, and he wrote a song called Magneto and Titanium Man. And that song is a organ-driven, that didn't sound right, but pump organ, that still didn't sound right, song about two Marvel Comics characters. And I was completely blown away because I'm a comic book collector, and I immediately, attached myself to that song. And it was a big hit when he performed it live. Then the next song is Letting Go, which he still performs live. And another great song, power ballad. And then side 2 of the album opens with Venus and Mars Reprise. And now this is space science fiction. Starship 21ZNA9 shows me a sign, Venus and Mars, something like that. So it's really about the stars and space. And then it goes into Spirits of Ancient Egypt. And that song is sung by Denny Laine with backing vocals by McCartney, which it's a good song. The next song was really, I think, the first song written by someone other than, a band member other than McCartney, solo, and that's Medicine Jar, and it was written by Jimmy McCulloch. And great song, all-out rocker. Unfortunately, he died of a drug overdose several years later. But nonetheless, great song. Then the single, Listen to What the Man Said. Dave Mason happened to be in town when they were recording, and they asked him, "You want to sit in?" And he did graciously. So Dave Mason's the guitarist on Listen to What the Man Said. Then you have a ballad, kind of a medley, Treat Her Gently, and then Lonely Old People. And it blends very well together, and it's a very heartwarming song about the elderly, really. Treat her gently, treat her kind. She doesn't know her own mind. And then Lonely Old People. Here we sit, two lonely old people, eking the time of day. It's kind of sad, but it's sad, but sweet. And then it closes with Crossroads theme, and that's just a 1 minute instrumental. I'm not sure. There's a television show called Crossroads in Britain. I'm not sure he wrote this song, but he plays it, and it's a guitar instrumental, and it's nice. But Venus and Mars ends with that. So the pressure was on McCartney after the massive hit Band on the Run to put out with something at least comparable to that, and he pretty much did. The week prior to Venus and Mars being released, Elton John released Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, and that entered the Billboard 200 chart at number 1. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to do the same, because that was the first album ever to hit number 1 the first week, was Elton John's Captain Fantastic. I thought McCartney's going to do the same thing, and it hit number 2. So it didn't hit number 1, but that was, I think, McCartney's highest entry of any of his solo albums. So it was still quite an accomplishment. And since then, he's had several hit number 2 in the United States the first week. So that's it. I'm trying to keep this under an hour, and I did. I'm talking fairly fast, but that's okay. Anyway, I usually play snippets of the songs from the album, and YouTube kind of let me know that if I did that, they would block it out in some territories, and also they wouldn't expose the video in many of the different outlets because of copyright infringements. So I've decided I'm not going to do that anymore. Unfortunately, I still have some music to play in the background and things like that for opening and ending, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to play anything that's been copyrighted. So sorry about that. Besides that, I think we're good. I appreciate everyone. You know, it was nice to, and I mentioned this in my video about Comic-Con, but it was nice to meet a lot of the Mega 64 fans. You guys are the best, and you're so supportive of me, and I appreciate it. And I don't like to really mention anything in regards to Mega 64, and I won't for the most part, because that's not my deal. That's their deal, and I'm not going to latch onto that. But I want to thank you guys, because I know you're watching because of your loyalty. So I appreciate it. Everyone else who's watching who really don't know me, hopefully you do now. And thank you. Tell your friends. I really want to build up this my viewership. I mean, I think I'm at 1,900 something. And I really want to build it up to well over 2,000 at least. So help me do that. If you help me do that, I'll give you guys each quarter. No, I won't. I won't do that. But anyway, thank you. Have a wonderful day, and peace.